Good evening. We're going to start with the national anthem and a presentation of the colors by the Colin Powell Naval Sea Cadets. There are 5 topics that will be discussed tonight. The first topic being public education. The second topic being leadership and ethics. The third topic we'll talk about is housing. The fourth topic, we'll talk about jobs and economy. And the fifth topic, we'll talk about violence prevention. And one note as well, that this debate is also being streamed live by CanTV at youtube.com/ShyCanTV. And if you are on Twitter, please use the hashtag SouthlandCD.
We are going to begin with opening statements. Mr. Ernest Fenton is first. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to participate. I don't know if we can. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in tonight's forum, and I thank all of you for taking time out to be here. And my father, I'll start off by saying that my father taught me something very important very early on, and that is whenever you come to the table, make certain that you bring more to the table than you actually eat. And so that's my endeavor, that's my goal for tonight. So you've already given me something by your being here, and I hope to give you something more in my sharing tonight. Again, I am attorney Ernest B. Fenton. I have already been doing the work that needs to be done in the 2nd District. A lot of you perhaps may know me as the stop foreclosure attorney, the consumer advocate. Hopefully you've heard me on WVON on Saturdays or Sunday mornings on 106.3. In my 5 years, or over the past 5 years of my practice, I've had the honor of counseling over 20,000 individuals in the Southland area regarding some of the more important issues that we all have been affected by, either personally or directly or indirectly rather. Foreclosure, being consumed in debt, medical bills, joblessness.
All right, Mr. Fenton,
evictions.
I got to cut you off. You can pick it up later.
I appreciate it. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The first topic is leadership and ethics. And here's the question. Given the history of 2nd District congressmen, if you are elected, what steps will you take to bring honesty, integrity, and fair representation to the district and ensure voters that you will not follow in the footsteps of your predecessors?
Thank you once again. Well, I don't think I need 2 minutes to respond to that one. As it relates to leadership and ethics, and my making certain that I do not follow in the footsteps of my predecessors, I'll simply be myself. I have a history of integrity. I have a history of following the canons of ethics. I'm an attorney. I must abide by certain rules and regulations. I've been practicing law for 13 years. I'm a military veteran. It requires that one be ethical. It requires that one be moral. And that's who I am as a foundational issue. So what I'll do is be an example, and I'll continue to do what I've always done. And just be me. Thank you.
Well, I'm honest. Hopefully my track record has shown that as the state representative.
Congress, their approval ratings are in the single digits. And we need to send somebody back there that is going to talk and have relationships to get things done.
Please, sir, take your seat. Again, we want our audience to be respectful so that we may continue with our debate. Thank you very much. Senator Hutchinson, you have the floor.
Thank you. I built 4 of the state-of-the-art baseball facilities in the heart of the city of Chicago in the 9th Ward.
I'm still a baseball coach today in my spare time. I'm a high school baseball coach, volunteer, and I'm also help run my Little League organization. This is not rocket scientists.
During the Great Recession, so many Southland families saw their life savings wiped out. While big banks got big help from the government, families lost their homes to foreclosure, and that problem persists today. What would you do to address housing concerns for the people of the 2nd District?
I think it's very important before someone buys a home that they make sure they have the proper counseling. I think that was one of the problems, that people engaged in contracts they didn't understand. Outreach and counseling before people buy homes, and also no safe harbor.
There are all kinds of programs, and there's a website on the Obama's website. The President has a great website to do that.
As far as housing is concerned, Allgale Gardens, I've rehabbed 1,300 affordable housing units in the Allgale Garden Murray community. We still have 600 units left to go.
I've saved homeowners more than $20 million over the past 3 years in the work that I do in my practice. The first thing I'm going to do when I get to Congress, I'm going to fight to reduce principal balances on mortgages that are underwater. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Before I look for the restroom even. The Home Affordable Modification Program was intended to assist 4 million homeowners. To date, it is recorded that approximately 1.2 million homeowners have received assistance. The second thing I'm going to do when I get to Congress is find the other 2.7 million homeowners who deserve a modification pursuant to the agreement entered into by the big banks and our government in consideration for $1.2 trillion that they got. Guess from who? Raise your hand if you gave to that $1.2 trillion. Second thing I'm going to do. 2.7 million homeowners deserve a modification that they have not received. Home Affordable Refinance Program intended to assist homeowners. Program guidelines, too restrictive. Why? First off, if your home is more than 125% underwater, then you don't qualify. Most homes in the Southland area are more than 25% underwater. Also, too restrictive. Why? Because you could not have been delinquent on a payment in the past 12 months. We need to extend or change the requirements as it relates to the Home Affordable Refinance Program. My platform is founded on one simple principle that relates to what? Everything. Stability in housing affects more than homes. How so? Jobs, crime, education. Broken down communities mean no jobs because you can't attract or support local businesses. It means more crime, dilapidated structures in your communities. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fenton.
Ideas are good ideas, that if you're having trouble and the bank takes over your house, rent it back so that you can stay in it. Pay the bank rent. They don't want to move out of their house because it just sits there vacant and they have to go find somewhere else to live, so they want to stay in their house, so they want to pay rent.
As Congresswoman, one thing I would do is market what is out there better, because I know a lot of people don't know the law library in the Markham Courthouse and also the law library downtown in the Daly Center. They actually have places where you can go for housing counseling. They can't give you legal advice, but they can connect you to what the resources are. And that's some of the problems.
Mr. Beal said that Allgale Gardens was benefited by the Neighborhood Stabilization Act, but as I walked through Allgale Gardens just last week, it looked like a ghost town. Strange to me. Ms. Halverson said that homeowners should be allowed to rent the properties back. I think that's a great idea. But the only problem with that is, as a practical matter, the banks require that the properties be vacant prior to placing them on the market. There's only one person here who can adequately address this issue of housing. That would be me. What's strange in all of this is that none of the people sitting on this panel have ever sought my counsel. Thank you.
And in my statement, I said, yes, Allgale Gardens we rehab 1,300 units. But I think I still said we had 600 left to go. So those 600 I still need to be rehabbed. So we're still working in progress. One of the things we need to understand is an alderman is a training ground for a congressman.
How will you ensure that each and every child in the 2nd District has equal access to a quality public education and equal opportunity to continue their education at the collegiate level regardless of their financial backgrounds.
Equal opportunity is pretty much the bottom line of what I talk about everywhere I go. You know, I grew up, my mom hates when I say this, poor, but I think eating mayonnaise sandwiches for lunch because you didn't know that you could put meat in between this bread, free and reduced lunch at school, but I didn't have the opportunities a lot of people did. Here in the south suburbs, as we served on the state level, Robin Toy and myself, we all served in the state legislature. Tax evaluations, that's a state issue. But what we can do in Congress, and what I've done, is to make sure that we have the community colleges. I couldn't go to college until my kids went to college. So I'll add later.
All right.
But I am a proponent of race to the top, and one of the things that we were able to do at the state Senate level was pass Senate Bill 7 so that we could compete for the race to the top funds that were announced from the U.S. Department of Education.
So a few years later, we will continue to fight for the money to finish that school, and Gwendolyn Brooks is the number 5 school as far as academics in the city of Chicago.
I was a tutor at the Upward Bound program while I was in college, and I tutored at Manly and Austin. We can talk all, you know, we can speak in euphemisms, all these friendly words, and education and children are our future, and we can sing Kumbaya. But the truth is that in certain schools, they don't have books. It's just that simple. Get the kids some books. The 21st century tool is technology. Where are the computers? There's a disconnect between education and the future of the children as it is related to them. Let me give you an example. Children don't see how education fits into their future. We don't speak about our children. We don't speak about an education in terms that relate to children today. When I was in high school, as an example, no one told Ernest Fenton that if he went to college, he could achieve X, Y, Z. I was looked upon as a problem to be solved. If you listen to my show, Gospel Truth Legal Show, Social Justice Hour, in my close I say, it wasn't until I realized who I was that I was able to practice law. So for the first 7 years that I was an attorney, I didn't practice law. And I graduated from Harvard Law School. Why? Because there was a disconnect between my education and my vocation, even as a Harvard-trained attorney. So if it exists for me, then imagine how it exists for these children. So it wasn't until I found out that I was to be a servant, that I was to be a consumer advocate, was I able then to utilize my education. Thank you. Thank you.
As Congresswoman, first of all, I would make sure programs like No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top were inclusive programs. I'm not an educator. I don't think funding will ever really be fair because of how funding is done in the state of Illinois. The way we teach or the times at school were from agricultural days, and maybe we need to look at alternatives to what we're doing now. Again, I'm not a teacher. I would have to take it back to the educators of what the best thing is to do.
You know, I always like to bring up our veterans. A specific policy for public education is things that we could do with regards to not only our veterans, but putting vocational education back into the high schools.
If we can fund a 10-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan, then we can fund early childhood education for every child across the country. If we can fund a 10-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan, then we can provide student loan debt forgiveness for those who go on and work in fields that are honorable, that give back to the community. We can do that. If we can fund a war in Iraq, a 10-year war, then perhaps we could also fund the policy that they have in a lot of European communities, which is free education, okay? And I'm talking about college education. We can fund that as well. My policy, simple, young lady, books in every classroom for every child, policy number 1. Second policy, computer access for all children. Computer access. Another policy, we can hardwire we can create hot spots in every community. We can fund that as well. All right, thank you.
I do agree with Mr. Fenton, what he said, if we can afford a war, we can afford to educate our children.
The 2nd District needs jobs. Give us specific examples of how you will create employment opportunities, especially for the young people of this district, and how do you plan to help small business owners and stimulate further economic development in the Southland?
As far as jobs are concerned, again, I've created more jobs than anybody running in this particular race at this particular time. Now, once that 3rd airport is built, that's 15,000 jobs to start. Once it's fully developed, 150,000 jobs. But once we connect it with our ports, our rail, and our roads, we're creating hundreds of thousands of jobs in this particular region.
We need somebody who knows how to create jobs and get things done.
Alderman Bill is rather creative. He must not have read my bio, because when I was 25 years old, I started my first business. I imported jewelry and artifacts from Africa while I was in law school and created 10 jobs. I've been an entrepreneur for 17 years. I have a payroll, Alderman Bill, of $500,000 today. I've been creating jobs for 17 years. I've never held a job in my life. The policy for job creation is stop trying to create jobs, stop trying to give young people jobs, and make young people innovators. Stop killing the ingenuity of young people in our educational system and tell them how they'll take their place upon or in this global economy. That's how we will create jobs. I'll reserve my other minute for the next session. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a jobs plan. A jobs plan from one end of this district to the other to create jobs from the city all the way to Kankakee. Nobody else on this panel has ever drafted a community benefits agreement. I've drafted 2, one with Walmart to make sure they give back to the community, make sure that they open up their doors to entrepreneurs that want to do business with them, that they hire so many people from the community.
Congressmen don't create jobs. I almost feel sorry for you all sitting in the audience. This is no time for political rhetoric. Congressmen don't create jobs. Aldermen don't create jobs. We create opportunities for the real job makers to create jobs. So when Alderman Beal, as an example, talked about Walmart, he didn't create the job. He did his job as a public servant to allow or afford Walmart the opportunity to create jobs. Ernest Fenton creates jobs. When the checks are cut in my office, they have my name on it, not Walmart, not Keebler, not the U.S. Congressional Office. But my job won't be to create jobs when I go to Congress, per se. My job is to create the opportunities to create jobs. Now, what do I know about job creation? I know a lot about it because for 17 years, I have been nothing but an employer and never an employee. I paid millions of dollars as an employer. I have been a small business owner for 17 years across industries. I don't know what the rest of the people on the panel have done. I haven't checked their background that much, but what I do know is about me. I know what it takes to create jobs. And I'm also very clear on what my responsibility is as your next congressman. Thank you.
And we created hundreds of jobs, or gave the opportunity for businesses to create hundreds of jobs across the state of Illinois.
So that Mr. Fenton doesn't have to check my background. I am a small business owner. My husband and I own 2 companies.
As Wendell mentioned, our hearts are heavy with the death of 15-year-old Hadia Pendleton, so many other young people in the Chicago area, in the 2nd District, senselessly murdered. If you are elected, what measures will you take to protect our children and stop the gun violence that not only plagues the city of Chicago, but this country?
Crime in our community, violence in our community, is really not an issue of guns. This is not a gun war. This is a cultural war. This is a moral war. This is a spiritual war. And we're doing the young people in the 2nd District and across America a disservice by mischaracterizing this issue, thus leading us to the wrong first, second, and final steps in its resolution. Now, I'm a military veteran. I know about guns. I was trained to utilize automatic weapons. Were they designed for one purpose and one purpose only? Absolutely. But that's not our issue. Our primary issue is the devalue of life, the absence of identity in this future that we are developing and sculpting and trying to sell them. The fact that there are no alternatives. The fact that we feed them an identity that says that they are a problem to be solved as opposed to our future. I too was a problem child. The issue of crime and violence in the 2nd District, let's be clear here, is an issue related to young men of color. Let's just call it what it is. Let's start right there. Until we can weave young men of color into the fabric of America, into the fabric of the 2nd District, we're going to continuously have the issue of crime. Thank you.
I believe that we need a whole lot of things that we need to go after the gun problems. Having to watch a commercial that portrays me as someone that has this A from the NRA and a 500,000 ad buy.
My heart goes out to any victim of gun violence. It's happened in my family. What I can't do, however, people, is simply have a conversation about change that is only temporary, as opposed to having a real conversation about transformation where we can change lives and really stop people from being killed. When I'm your congressman, I'm only dealing with transformation. Because we can talk and feel good right now and make this conversation about guns, but it's a disingenuous conversation. I am a veteran. I know the power of guns and weapons. Semi-automatic rifles are intended to kill. Should one be allowed to purchase them? Maybe, maybe not. But let's pretend that they do. Let me tell you what that they are. Let me tell you what my policy would be. You can purchase them, but you just can't take them home. I'd like to have a white Siberian tiger. I can purchase it, but I just can't take it home. But more important than that conversation, and hopefully that sticks with you, let's talk for real about what's happening. Crime, gun violence in the 2nd District equals young black men, young men of color, young Latino men. So until we start meeting those young men where they are, talking to them, taking them into our fold, we are not going to resolve the issue of crime and violence in our community. I look forward to serving you as your next congressman. I am Attorney Ernest B. Fenton.
And I'm going to say this, whether I win or lose, I will not forget this and what has happened.
I appreciate everyone sitting still through all of this. I started off earlier and shared with you that the foundation of my candidacy is that stability in housing affects more than homes. I've been out here doing the work. I've been at the forefront of the foreclosure crisis. Stability in housing affects more than homes. See, if your neighbor loses their home, then it's going to be more difficult to attract and support local businesses, because as our communities become graveyards almost, if you take a look at the city of Harvey, if you drive through South Shore, not through the main roads, not just down Dixie Highway through Markham, but go inside and really take a look. And some of our communities appear to be graveyards. How can one, without stability in housing, attract and support local businesses? Local businesses and businesses that are looking to relocate rely on stable communities to pull from its workforce, also to consume its goods and services. If you don't attract and support local businesses, then likewise one cannot expect to have jobs in your community. Small businesses account for the majority of the jobs in the United States of America. Oftentimes we talk about the big boxes, the Walmarts, Keebler, the Ninth Ward we've heard about. But those are not the job creators in our community. They're the small businesses. In the 2nd District in particular, go down to Kankakee and take a look at the small business infrastructure. It's lacking. If you don't have businesses and communities, you don't have jobs. So then that means our young people that we're so concerned about educating won't have a mentor in the community that can connect their education to their future, their promise. If you don't have that mentor in the community, that small businessman, to take your child into the fold, then we all know an idle mind is what? No one? A devil's playground. Crime, people. Stability in housing affects more than homes. That's the root of your crime, not a gun. Remember, I would love to have a white Siberian tiger. I just can't take it home. So we have to stabilize our community. See, once again, this is not a gun issue. This is not a job issue per se. This is not an education issue either. This is a cultural issue. This is about you and me and what we really care about, how much we're really willing to invest in our communities. This is a moral issue. This is a spiritual issue. Now, to resolve those issues, there are certain tools and structures that need to be put in place. Now, that's when we start talking about jobs. That's when we start talking about businesses. That's when we start talking about the Home Affordable Modification Program. But if you mischaracterize the issue, people, you're going to continuously get the wrong result. If you start off wrong, guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up wrong. Ernest B. Fenton is not a politician. Be clear on that. It was not until I found my purpose in life to be an advocate that I began to practice law. In the same spirit that I have and my firm has taken the lead in the foreclosure crisis and consumer advocacy across Cook County and Will County and Kankakee County, I'm going to take that same passion, that same zeal, that same zest, the same understanding, the same integrity to serve you. Thank you. I am Attorney Ernest B. Fenton, your next congressman in the 2nd District.
And so as I close us out, some people say that, the democracy lies right here. Whoever's elected, please don't get too comfortable.